Hello, and welcome to Spilling the Tea, the podcast where we dive deep into the cutting edge of confidential computing and AI. I'm Lisa Loud from Secret Network, and I'll be your host today. And I'm really excited about our guest today. This isn't your typical guest. In fact, here we have Amateo Kaplan, who's CMO of COTI, with us today. And I personally am inspired by Amateo's leadership background, what he's done in training other leaders in the world. And I think we'll spend a little bit of time talking about your amazing work in leadership training, as well as your own leadership journey. So today, Amateo is the Chief Marketing Officer of COTI. We will talk about that as well. And COTI's on a mission to take privacy mainstream. Amateo has over 7 years in blockchain and AI, scaling and growing companies on the edge in leadership roles. And his passion, I love this, is uplifting humanity through technology and abundance. Welcome, Amateo. I'm glad to have you with us today.
Lisa, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. I'm excited to dive in and discuss all the things today. And thank you to your amazing audience.
Yeah, so we'll get to your role at COTI in a minute, but I
Sure.
wanted to start with a non-scripted question here.
Hmm.
I wanted to ask you about your work in leadership training because I am about to publish a book on leadership. It's about leadership
Congrats.
in chaotic times. Yeah, I'm really excited about sharing what I've gathered over my career. And I've also launched a workshop called The Untamed Careerist. So what I want to ask you is, looking back, what are the
Yeah.
lessons? What advice would you give me kind of at the beginning of this journey, having gone through a lot of the same things yourself?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. And congratulations on your new book. I'm excited to read it. Maybe, Lisa, I can get a signed copy and we can coordinate after this because I'm
Sounds
looking
good.
forward to that. But yeah, I would say that I've been in leadership training. It probably started about over 10 years ago, a bit more in the digital marketing and education space. There was like a really big time where that was just absolutely popping, and there was a lot of leadership training at that time. So I went to quite a few events, training, even was in some masterminds to help really sculpt my skills in becoming a leader.
Mhm.
And I would say, like, to answer your question, what do I think about that? And how would I address that? What are the advice that I would give? One is very simple, but it's to be bold, to actually express your ideas, to have the courage to express an idea that is shot down or isn't liked or isn't of the status quo. And I'd say the combination with being bold is one of my other kind of favorite leadership philosophies, which is it's not about being right, it's about getting it right. And so that helps
Mm.
you as a leader to remove your ego and other things that may be underpinning your decision making or your ideas, to just say, how do we get this right?
Yeah.
And how can I get everyone's input so that we can make the most informed decision and help drive the most informed decision than saying that you have to make my choice because I said it because I'm the leader, right? A
Mhm.
good leader is not someone who just has the right ideas and makes all the decisions. A good leader is the one who specializes in extracting everyone's genius, everyone's input, utilizing everybody at the highest level of their skill sets to
Amazing.
then drive an outcome that is
Mhm.
going to be the best that you could have come up with. And I think that that's really what leadership is all about. Mhm.
Right. I love that. That's amazing. Getting it right is different from being right. Getting it right implies there's a process involved. So you can get it wrong and then improve it, right?
That's right. Exactly. And I mean, and I'm a marketer, right? So the beauty about marketing is you actually don't know what's correct. You have to test it. And so you get to counter your assumptions
Mhm.
constantly because
So true.
you, over time as a marketer, you build like really strong marketing intuition. And so you have an idea about a hypothesis that you can test, and you may be right more often than you're not as you build your experience. But in the long tail of things, you still have to test and learn. And whether you're a builder trying to find product market fit or a marketer trying to hit a growth curve, those are all the things that are required.
Great advice. Thank you so much. I may steal some of this interview actually for my other podcast, which has not launched yet, which is all about careers, leadership, and growing your own impact in the world. So, as long as you give me permission to share
Oh,
your words,
of
because really
course.
on point. Thank you. So
Of
let's come
course.
back. We'll come back to some of this leadership stuff later in the questions, but just to start off, you joined as CMO in December at
Uh-huh.
COTI. So I'm just wondering, what did you see in COTI that made the timing right for that?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. It was lining up with a few things. One, it was time for a change in my career, and I wanted to join a new project. And two, I was assessing the landscape and saw the opportunity for privacy to really become this dominant trend within the space. Uh, and in the crypto and blockchain space, there's a lot of new and shiny, but Kadi was this perfect mix of legacy, mature, developed team, trusted brand, and then building what's actually the hottest and latest trend. That's not a very easy amalgamation of qualities to find. And
True.
so when those things sort of lined up, and we started having discussions, and I met the team, my mind started racing, and I started to come up with all the ideas of the things that I wanted to do together. And that to me is always a sign that it's the right direction. And so we locked in, and we've been building ever since. Mhm.
That's cool. So where do you see the most obvious areas that you can bring an impact immediately at COTI?
Yeah, so I think we've already achieved this, but since December, the goal was to just create a total vibe shift in kind of how we were marketing, make it more human, making the marketing content more dynamic, more
Uh-huh.
multimedia, bringing AI more into what we were doing, and making the AI tools something that this we'll get into this more, but really helping the community go from maybe say token holders or participants into builders. Like how do we actually help them make that leap? And so those were some of the key things in addition with our bigger initiatives, the partnerships, and getting together the big relationship building that we've already announced some things, but we've got a lot lined up for Q1 and Q2.
Oh,
Mhm.
exciting stuff. So, COTI self-describes as a programmable privacy layer on Ethereum. So, tell me, what's programmable privacy?
Great. Let's maybe start at like a simple explanation of this, which is um, many people may be uh, familiar with like anonymity coins, which is like a Zcash or a Monero, where essentially there's very little information that is revealed, and the people who use them remain anonymous. And that's kind of what was the initial wave of this technology, but it's really evolved into this next wave, which is privacy, and more important, programmable privacy. So, what does that mean? Programmable privacy is essentially the ability to take transactions, on-chain messages, and different computational functions that can happen between enterprises and users, and actually make various elements of that sensitive data selectively confidential. So we can make certain elements of that data confidential or reveal certain elements of that data and not have it be confidential based on the use case. So that's why we call it programmable. One, you can program it in and actually program it into your existing app or DApp or whatever it is that you're building. You can build it into an exchange or a perpetuals exchange, which we have people who've already built that on top of Cody. Um, but then there's not only the ability to program privacy, but there's the ability to make that privacy itself programmable. And that's that selective confidentiality I just talked about on
Mhm.
how you obscure various elements of information between parties.
I like that. It's a great explanation. Takes it down to its simplest forms. Um, Clearly, programmable privacy is what we need.
Right.
So, but in terms of privacy in general, certainly a hot topic these days. Why do you think privacy has become such a trend, such a leading topic for discussion, and the privacy coins are all experiencing more buoyancy than the crypto
Mhm.
market in general? Why do you think that has happened?
Yeah, so I think that there's twofold. So one, there's the actual, as I mentioned, like the anonymity coins, and then there's the privacy projects. But the trend kind of happened as a result of two things, two limitations being exposed by the growth of the industry and the technology. One, the benefits of, say, Bitcoin's transparent ledger and transparent transaction history, while it is massively valuable and is an innovative leap, there are limitations to all of that data being exposed. There was an example recently where someone, it was a great post, and I'm not giving the credit to the author, so my apologies, but that they paid a contractor for their services in stablecoins. That contractor went and reviewed the wallet that sent them money and said, why is there so much money inside of your wallet? Where did that come from? That made that project, that company, really uncomfortable, because they don't want other people, their contractors, their employees, because that's just sensitive business operations. Certain
Yeah.
times that's important to be transparent, but other times that's on a need to know basis, right? That could also open you up to threat actors and
Yes.
malicious entities. And
Right.
so when these sorts of issues or limitations started to show up, privacy started to become more of a realized value proposition that was really critical. Something
Mhm.
else happened too.
Hmm.
And the other thing that happened is that we had all of this progress and infrastructure in crypto and blockchain. And what I mean by that is that the blockchain, the rails themselves, have matured tremendously. The dev tooling has matured tremendously, meaning that enterprises and institutions, for the first time ever, can actually come in and use these technologies. And in tandem, the regulatory regimes across the world are becoming more accommodating, or trying to figure out at least how to become
Yeah.
more accommodating of this technology. So as the regulatory hurdles started to get crossed, and the technological hurdles started to get crossed,
Hmm.
the enterprises and institutions say, okay, you know what? Well, in the least do pilot programs, in the most actually bring on assets on chain. And they immediately ran into an issue, which is, well, we can't expose our client data. We can't
Right.
expose uh, who owns some of these assets. This is not going to work for us. We
Mhm.
can't have wallets tied to us when we're trying to do institutional level operations to the tune of tens of billions of dollars and actually embrace this technology. So it was either going to go into two routes: a closed system or an open system. And so what crypto and blockchain offers is an open system to participate in a 24/7 global market that opens up these enterprises and institutions in a massive way. But it became realized that privacy is actually non-negotiable for that adoption to happen. And it's
Mhm.
that coalescing of factors that really sparked this trend, and is why privacy is showing to be an enduring trend, not a fly-by-night one.
So you think it's institutionally driven, which we always thought it would be. I mean, so many of us have been predicting privacy is going to be important. Institutions are going to need it. And we wait and we wait. So you think the moment is now?
I do. I do. Yeah, I think the moment is now. I think that um, the regulatory green lights starting to light up, and people not being afraid of the SEC and other agencies coming after them.
Hmm.
More, we'll see if the Clarity Act gets passed, but more of these congressional green lights happening, at least in the US, but also elsewhere around the world. But two, there's an actual appetite for this.
Hmm.
We're actually seeing enterprise and institutional appetite and onboarding start to happen in a bigger way. And we're also seeing a greater demand for liquidity. So we've already seen this, and most recently with the craziness in the precious metals market, where one of the knee-jerk reactions was, how do I access this on crypto rails? And now that happened in a matter of weeks instead of a matter of years. That just shows the liquidity and the quickness to market that these rails can offer.
Great. All right, we're going to go a little bit deeper into the technology now for just for a second, but we're going to try to keep it understandable. So COTI and V2 are technical stories really focused on the innovation of garbled circuits and MPC. Let's take that out of the pure technical realm and explain that simply. What does that mean?
Yeah, so let's just touch on the MPC piece of this and sort of how secure multi-party computation works. And I think the easiest example of this is what's coined as Yao's millionaire problem. And the way that this works is that, let's say there's two millionaires. The old story of this is goes, one's named Alice and one's named Bob,
Right.
and Alice and Bob have big egos and they want to find out who's richer, or more precisely, is Alice richer than or the same wealth as Bob? But they're suspicious of each other, so they don't want to reveal how much money they actually have to each other, but they want to actually figure this out. So that's the problem. It's called the millionaire's problem. And the idea is that you can use multi-party computation to obscure information via cryptography to verify that who has more assets without either party learning anything about the information that they put in. So that's an oversimplification, but that is kind of
Mhm.
one of the origins of how this is built. And so what
And
we do
just
with
I just want to
Mhm.
interject there for our listeners. If you want to hear that the millionaire's problem described by Bruce of Partisia, Bruce does go into that same millionaire's problem in our Spilling the Tea episode with Partisia, so feel free to go check it out. But please go on. So you're going to continue with the garbled circuits part of it.
Yeah, and Bruce probably did a better job than I, so definitely go check that out. But yeah, it's a kind of a classic problem that privacy has helped solving. And so what we do is we use garbled circuits, which is a cryptographic method. It's actually not a new one. It's one that was developed in the 80s, but we innovated and made it current. And we're really the first blockchain to do this, and to use this like legacy concept, but to completely modernize it. Um, and so the way that it works is it enables multiple parties to jointly compute a function, like a transaction, a comparison, or smart contract logic, while keeping all private inputs. And the values of those inputs private from one another. And it does that by garbling the circuits and then
Right.
encrypting them, and then adding a table that allows certain information to be verified without revealing the underlying information. And so one party can send information, the other party can then receive that garbled circuit with their own encrypted inputs, and then be able to evaluate this information and not reveal the underlying. So it's a really creative way to achieve privacy. And one of the reasons why it's so unique is because of how performant it is. It's really one of the most efficient means of achieving high performance privacy when you're looking at a highly scalable solution.
Great answer. All right, let's take a little bit of a left turn now and dip into the topic of compliance. I mean, compliance is pretty loaded. It's a loaded word in crypto. COTI speaks about compliant privacy. So we've talked about a lot of different aspects of how you achieve your privacy and programmable privacy. Can you just describe what does compliant privacy mean, and how do you explain it to regulators as well as to the general public?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Um, so I would say think of compliance like this, and this shouldn't be a completely novel idea for most of your listeners, but governments and regulatory bodies need to ensure that they have access to specific data for verification of certain use cases based on their regulatory requirements, or they need to ensure that you, as a company, are handling sensitive data in a properly managed way. Right. So
Mm,
it's one or the other. You got to meet these data reporting requirements, or you have to meet these data management requirements.
mm,
So those are kind of kind of primary elements of compliance. And so, kind of harking back to what I said about programmable privacy in the beginning, means that we can use our selective confidentiality function to make certain elements of sensitive data be obscured or revealed, and to make sure that certain things hit certain requirements without revealing that information. So if you want to build enterprise level privacy solution, and you
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that that solution is compliant, you can actually design the smart contracts to relay information to verify whether a user, whether a transaction, whether an operational system is hitting those compliance requirements. And you can do that by revealing and maintaining certain information that they need to have, or even better, which we enable, making sure, does it get a green check or a red X on each of the boxes that compliance needs to hit on different operating functions. Now, where this gets complicated, if you're going to be building one of these enterprise projects and you want it to be global, you've got uh, different regulatory and compliance requirements for different countries and different regions. And so you have to build a very dynamic solution to meet all of that. And it has to be extremely dynamic if you still want it to participate in the open liquidity system of crypto. And that's really the promise of GC and programmable privacy. Mm-hmm.
So privacy, compliant privacy and programmable privacy,
Exactly. Yeah,
right?
they can really fit well together because you
Mm-hmm.
need it to be programmable in order for it to be compliant.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Well, Secret Network was early in building privacy preserving smart contracts, and COTI is building privacy infrastructure around Ethereum compatibility. So, from putting on your marketing hat, from a marketing standpoint, how do you explain the difference between privacy as a base layer and privacy as a layer that you can plug into an existing system?
Yeah. So, great question. Um, so I would say that the way to think about this is we have coined this privacy on demand, which means that we have a full stack uh, set of privacy tools and features that you can use to build on our native blockchain, COTI, that will allow you to enable garbled circuits, but that you can also take that privacy stack and bring it to other blockchains. And that's what we're going to be doing this year. So this year,
Right.
we're going to take this privacy on demand and we're going to bring it to a variety of other EVM blockchains so that our full stack privacy and garbled circuits, which I say GC, GC is accessible across the ecosystem. We're going to even, we want to build it and bring it to even outside EVM, but we'll start with EVM because obviously we're in Ethereum L2. So how do we take our layer 2 privacy network that we've built, but take that full stack privacy, bring it to Ethereum natively, bring it
Mhm.
to other EVM blockchains. So making it fully portable. That's a big key.
Amazing. Okay, it's clear that you've definitely immersed yourself in the technology, and you're very comfortable talking about it, which is great considering how short a time you've been there. Um, I just am really impressed with your
Thanks,
grasp
Lisa.
of of the technology. So, have you thought about how important are developers in your overall roadmap and your marketing plan? Developer adoption is often pretty difficult with privacy tech because of the added burden of encryption. So, what's your plan regarding developers?
Yeah. I think developers are everything. I just
Hmm.
can't emphasize that enough. Developers are the lifeblood, because great technology without great developers, it might as well just become a ghost town, right? So the way that I like to think about this is, um, uh, building software was hard and expensive. Now it's easier, but becoming much easier and
Yeah.
becoming ultimately easy due to vibe coding, due to Claude, uh, due to all of these amazing tools where you can get 80% of the work done and then need someone to spot check for bugs and do the final work. But so software is becoming easy. When I
Mhm.
first joined the crypto and blockchain space, you needed like a team of people to deploy a smart contract. And then you had to like carefully audit it, and everyone was freaking out. No one really knew the details. It was really hard. Smart contracts are now becoming easy. And programming crypto is becoming easy. So you have this evolution of hard to easy in all things technological.
Right.
Privacy is still hard. So
Right.
privacy is still really hard. It hasn't become easy yet. And so what we see now is that there's different blockchains and different protocols that are taking different methodologies for solving privacy, and they're all valid. By the way, I'm not here to say that we really believe in our technology, but there's value in ZK and zero knowledge proofs. There's value in fully homomorphic encryption. These things have value,
Mhm.
and they achieve things in different ways. But essentially, privacy is hard. And so a lot of these projects are still early on or in early adaptations of their privacy tech, testing that in use cases. We've been established for a while. So our privacy tech launched last year, and now we're really scaling it up and building it. And that's a long-winded way of saying what our goal is to make building with privacy easy.
Okay.
And to do that, we're utilizing and embracing all the latest vibe coding tools to
Mhm.
give you um, uh, MCPs with NPCs, right? Like really bridging the gap
Right.
between the AI vibe coding tools, the latest that are available, and our full stack privacy in SDKs, in CLIs, in things that make it completely portable into an LLM so that people can build. So we'll be launching a big competition to get builders building on COTI with these privacy tools using AI
Cool.
this quarter. Mhm.
Amazing. You're really, riding the wave, surfing the edge of the wave there.
You kind of have to right now. It's
Yeah, that's true. That's
it's
true.
really critical.
To maintain a lead. It's true.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna ask you a challenging question.
Ooh.
Let's make it real. What are the 3 use cases that you think will make privacy unavoidable in the next 18 months? We've got to keep this momentum going, and why?
Great question. Um, well, like I'll say this, the we've had this like if you've been in crypto and blockchain for a while, there's been a prophecy. And the prophecy is that everything will be tokenized.
Mhm.
And so I think that privacy makes the prophecy a reality, which and the use cases that we'll see that come to pass, um, a big one is RWAs. So
Mm.
real world assets, they're expected to be $30 trillion of real world assets by 2030. That's a lot that have the opportunity to be tokenized. So this, as we spoke about earlier, those real world assets are hitting a huge barrier in actually becoming liquid on chain because they don't have privacy. So I think privacy will power that. They'll make it a reality, and that is going to be unavoidable. And it's going to start this trend where all of these physical things become represented by digital value, and that then become liquid markets. That's going to just be wild. I think something that we're already well underway of seeing is the tokenizations of stocks and commodities. I think that there's going to be a lot of privacy as well as compliant privacy needs that are
Mhm.
going to fuel that. That trend seems to be accelerating really quickly right now. Um, but but look, even if you just do that without privacy, there's going to be a limitation on how much quants and hedge funds can participate in that because they don't want their strategies to be revealed on chain. You already
Mm.
see this with Hyperliquid. So there's just all these bots that counter trade whales
Right.
automatically on Hyperliquid because all of their positions are exposed. That's why we have an
Yeah.
amazing project that's built on COTI called Privix, and Privix is a fully private perpetuals exchange that allows agents and people to trade perpetual intent-based contracts, but in a private way. So leaning into the ability to make all of these trades, deploy trading strategies with agents, but not have it be revealed. So,
Right.
and last week we actually hit in 24 hours we climbed to top 10 perps
Wow.
volumes by chain, driven specifically by this. Good demonstration that privacy is really important. So
Right.
stocks and commodities becoming tokenized, privacy is going to be needed for that. And then I'd say the third one would be some amalgamation of whatever digital neobanks having more blockchain native um, uh, stable coins and just infrastructure. It's going to need privacy. It's just going to need privacy. If Chase or Bank of America or JP Morgan want to fully embrace stablecoin rails, which there's a lot of incentives for them to do so, they can't have all their wallet balances exposed all the
Right.
time, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And in the case of RWA, um, the people who are coming in to trade tokenized real world assets can't say that phrase very easily. It's a tongue twister for me. Those who are coming in to trade those are expecting I mean, they have an assumption of privacy already, right? They're they're not expecting their strategy to be revealed. And so I think you're right. The people who are coming in will have an expectation of privacy that will drive the technology to keep up.
I think that that's a very important point that you just made, Lisa, because that was a bit of the enterprise and institutional shock, right? Which was,
Right.
what do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
no, of course we can't use this. Like, it has to
Yes,
be private. There's only one way, and that's private. Um, it,
exactly.
it it's their proprietary approaches that have made these financial behemoths what they are. They're not
Mhm.
just going to reveal
Exactly.
everything just so that
Yeah.
they make a few basis points in speed and acceleration, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. Share all your IP. It'll be fine. Don't worry.
yeah, exactly.
So, going back to the topic of leadership, often when leadership changes, communities have a hard time.
Yeah.
They're skeptical. What is, as someone who is kind of an expert in leadership, as we talked about earlier, what's your approach to earning trust quickly, particularly from longtime holders and builders in your ecosystem?
Yeah. Oh, I love that one too. Trust is hard in crypto and blockchain, and trust is hard because, um, like, it ends up becoming intrinsically tied to market conditions, which are then out of your control. There's some of what you can control, but there's a lot that you can't. So how do we really support trust and leadership? I will say the beauty of having come into COTI as CMO is that their
Mhm.
CMO had been with them from the beginning. This wasn't a revolving door. This was
Right.
a lot of trust that was built. And so I got to um, take the spot of someone who's incredibly talented and really privileged to have been passed the torch to. So, that is a great piece. It's not like there's a ton of revolvingness that's going on. So that
Mhm.
helps, number one. But I'd say the key points is my goal right off the bat was get involved. So lead from the front is very important. Always important in leadership. It's very
Mhm.
important in crypto and blockchain. So if you're just this obscured, anonymous, hard to reach person, it leaves a lot of room for speculation on you, your approach, and who you are. But if you put
True.
yourself out there, if you're
Mhm.
vocal, if you're transparent, if you just are yourself, people understand that you're human, right? Like, I'm going to post things that are just thoughts, that are just my ideas. And I'm going to show my support to the project. Why? Because I'm a human. I have interests. I have ideas. And I think that that's really essential. And so for me, it's about being accessible. being involved and leading from the front. Those are some of the core methodologies that I took stepping into this role. And that means that the community can reach me, they can message me, and they're going
Yeah,
to get a response, and that they're going to feel
that's
heard. If something pops up that's a question or some FUD that just sort of bubbles up out of nowhere, we got to address that sooner than later, and that they know it's going to get attention.
mhm. Yeah, so you're visible, and that inspires trust. I think that's a great approach. Well, I
Mhm.
have one last question for you, and then I would love to hear just general thoughts on how people can reach you or what you want to
Yeah.
say. But my last question for you is, if we speak again in a year, what would have to be true for you to say that privacy on Ethereum has crossed from theory into fact or a new
Mhm.
standard?
Mhm. Yeah. So I will say there are a variety of privacy standards, just like ERC standards, that have been issued, and a whole bunch they have in the pipeline, which is really promising.
Uh-huh.
But I would say that if privacy is as normalized in Ethereum as programming a Solidity contract, and that if the feature sets for privacy are all as integrated to the smart contract deployment ecosystem as the smart contract ecosystem is built today. So essentially, that it's completely normalized within the privacy stack. And then you see the adoption curve of these privacy standards and protocols continue to grow their network effect in a really exponential way. So from a year by now, I expect that those standards um, and the protocol integration to have evolved massively, and then us to see the actual results of that. And that would be big enterprises using these standards, big institutions, and um, pilot programs be moved out of pilot to integration. I would say the biggest win would be I'd love to see something fully compliant built on ETH, meeting regulatory requirements,
Uh-huh.
using compliant privacy, and ideally powered by GC. But that would be like a win in the next year, is actually having something that's hitting all those marks. Mhm.
Okay, great. Great way to end. So the stage is yours. What would you like to say? How can people reach you, or what's a pet theory that you just want to get out there?
Oh, that's great. You can reach me. Uh, Shout out X. They gave me a new handle for my core name, so it's just at Amateo, Amateo. You can follow me there. That's a really easy place to reach me. Feel free to DM me there. Always down to collaborate and to connect with other builders, anyone who has questions, and even other privacy projects and innovators in the space. A big theory and philosophy of mine is just being hyper collaborative. It's the rising tide that lifts all boats, and so very much open to building bridges, literally and figuratively, across the industry. So I'll say that. That and that if you're anything that interested you about what I shared today, come check us out. COTI.io to come learn more, learn about garbled circuits, get involved, come build on us with AI tools, try it for yourself. You'll be surprised at how easy privacy can be. And I would say final thoughts is, I truly believe that we can create a world that is uplifted for everyone, and that we're already seeing a higher standard and quality of living for people all over the world
Mhm.
as a result from technology. And if we keep giving back and building towards that cause, 5 to 10 years from now can be uh, almost unrecognizable from the world we have today. So thank you,
Well,
Lisa, for
thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you for being on the show and for sharing all of your wisdom and insights. We've ranged from technology to leadership to self growth, I think. So thank you so much for sharing it all. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners appreciate it as well.
Thank you so much, Lisa.